All right. Welcome once, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are now on the eve of kickoff weekend. Saints game tomorrow. Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Dome. This will be the 99th season of the NFL. 99 years. No, I did not see the original Canton Bulldogs or anything like that. I'm old, but not that old. But I have been around for the 50 years of the Saints, so I guess we can go with that. Welcome, everybody, to our annual kickoff show. This is our second annual show. And like last year, we've got a special guest on tonight who we'll introduce shortly. First off, I'm your host, Alan Ulrich. I'm here with my partner, Sean Williams. How you doing tonight, Sean?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing fantastic. The Great National Nightmare is almost over. Tomorrow, depending on which side of the field you were on Thursday night, the Great National Nightmare is over, as there were a few that just got started good Thursday evening. But the New Orleans Saints open the season tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not only is it an opening day game, it is an opening day game against a division rival that we're going to have to vanquish the evil people from Florida. Real quick, I want to pay the bills right quick. We want to thank Fan First Productions for being our sponsor. We want to invite everyone to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And without any further ado, and as Alan said, welcome to the third annual season premiere kickoff.
Done this 3 times?
Yes, this is number 3.
Oh my God! Okay, I thought this was our second one. I didn't realize we did one.
Yeah, has our rookie contract expired? I mean, are we up for renegotiation anytime?
No, we're in a 5-year deal. They picked up our option year, so we have 5 years.
Oh man, there's so many responses I could give to that, but anyway, our very special guest tonight is former middle linebacker for the New Orleans Saints, number 56. You might know his work, especially if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, during special teams. But there's so much more to his career than that. And we want to thank JoLonn Dunbar for joining us tonight. JoLonn, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Sean and Alan. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you here tonight, JoLonn.
He's tried to put you on the active roster twice before we went on the air tonight.
I did.
If you could tell Sean or Mickey to give me a call, I appreciate it.
That might not have been the worst idea a year ago, because we were like one step from trying to contact Bobby Boucher's agent to get a linebacker.
I'm not mad at you. Bobby Boucher played well.
You gotta make him mad. That's all.
Oh man.
Well, JoLonn, you were an undrafted free agent signed by the Saints, correct?
Yes.
Talk about that process. You coming to New Orleans from Boston College. What was that like, going through the draft process and then getting contacted by the Saints, and who else may have contacted you to try and bring you in?
The draft process was extremely difficult for me. I did have a 4th round grade, and that thing obviously didn't turn out the way I thought it did. But I fell into a situation that was perfect for me. New Orleans was one of the first teams to contact me. Arizona, Washington, and I think those are the 3 that kind of stayed in the mix, and it was kind of between all 3 of them. It ultimately came down to New Orleans and Arizona, and I do not regret the decision of making New Orleans the place for me.
And then once you came to New Orleans, you were first on special teams, and then later on you were backing up Jonathan Vilma. Now, of course, 2008 was when I first really noticed you. That Minnesota Monday night game. It was a terrible game for the offense, but it was an unbelievable game special teams because Reggie Bush returned 2 kicks for touchdowns, and he had a chance on the third one, but it was that first one that really you made your mark. People dream about that kind of hit. Talk about that play.
Well, we all know when you come in as an undrafted rookie, the only way you make this team is on special teams. So that's something that I knew going into the business, and it's something I tried to make sure I would obviously make the team as a special teams player. Going into that game, I mean, we were nailing. We were kind of like crawling through this season. We lost a lot of close games, but going through that game, we knew that we had to play well as a defense. We had to play well as a special teams. We had to help our offense. Our offense was great, but as a defense and as a special teams, we weren't as good. And obviously that day they just weren't playing very great. But in those situations, you need a defense and a special team to make some things happen, and we were able to make some things happen on that play. We're always taught to, once you set the blocks and all that good stuff, you always come back and peel back and try to get some guys off the fray, basically. And Coach McMahon kind of put that in our head and make some things. When I saw Aaron coming down that sideline, it was just he and I, and unfortunately, I was the guy to make some things happen.
Well, you did, as Ron Jaworski said, it was a decleater. You caught him cold, and he basically went head over heels.
Over heels. There was one point in time his body might have been parallel.
Yeah,
on the ground, and
there was 2 blocks, but yours was the biggest one because I can still hear Mike Tirico. He says, "Can he get a block? There's 1, there's 2, and Bush was gone." And it was just an incredible play because after you hit him, you kind of stood up and looked at the camera, even though you have no idea where the camera is. You just kind of do like this little, that was crazy. It was unbelievable. I did that. And it was great. That just made it even more fun. That was incredible.
It was
and what
awesome.
you were telling
it was really
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Of that season. No, it was awesome. It was really one of my highlights of my rookie season.
Well, this makes me kind of nervous because as you were telling us off the air, you were actually friends with the guy, and you knew him very well.
Yeah.
If you treat your friends that way, that makes me very nervous.
I promise I don't treat all my friends like that. I swear.
Hey, once you get on that field and you got different colored jersey, it's on.
That's the difference. Once you put on another jersey, we're no longer friends for 3 hours.
There ain't no friends on the football field.
Yeah, my friend.
Well, JoLonn, I've got 2 quick questions for you. Number one, the Superdome is an unbelievable atmosphere. Just as a fan, standing in the stands, making all that noise, listening to 70,000 people chant "Who dat" in the beginning, all that. On the field, what is it like when that crowd just starts, that noise just rises up on third down and you can feel that energy? What is it like as a player down there?
I mean, literally, you can feel the energy. You can feel the stadium shaking. Your ears are ringing. You cannot hear the man next to you. And it's one of those gladiator moments. Like you're just in the arena and everybody's cheering for you. It's really unreal. It's hard to put into words. It's by far the best stadium I've ever played in. As a home, as a Saint and in away games, by far the best stadium I've ever played in. And it's just, it's surreal to be in that stadium and hear those guys scream "Who dat" on a third down or that kickoff chant. Like those things still give me the chills.
Well, I've been on the floor of the dome and just looked up and looked around, and of course, it's empty. And I'm just imagining what it would be like to be out here with all that going on. It's just, I just can't imagine.
We all did the same thing. You make a play and you just look up in the crowd and you're like, "This is crazy!" Like it's just insane to see that many people cheering for you. And knowing that you just, you made a play in that particular situation, it's great.
Well, my other question for you is this: you came in as a rookie with Gary Gibbs as defensive coordinator, and then as your second year in the league, you came when Greg Williams came in and changed the defense.
Yeah.
And then I believe when you went to the Rams, was Greg Williams there as well?
Yeah, Greg was there, and his son was the coordinator. As Greg was there, his son was the linebacker coach. We ran a lot of what Greg installed.
Well, describe, I guess, for everybody what, not so much compare and contrast between Gibbs and Williams, but describe what it was like to play for a Greg Williams kind of coach and that scheme, what it did for you as a player.
So Greg teaches an aggressive. Greg has an aggressive scheme. Like, you're always going forward. You're always trying to make something happen. You're always trying to overflood the pocket. Like, it's one of those schemes where you're always attacking a offense. You always hear about offenses attacking defenses, but you don't really hear so much about defenses attacking offenses. And that's just Greg's mentality. Greg puts into you that we're just going to attack this team, and we're gonna overpower them physically, mentally, emotionally, and that's defense. And that's how he calls his defense. He's very aggressive in his play calling. So when you're playing for a guy like Greg, and he's calling those plays, and you're just that every opportunity is an opportunity for you to make a big play, just because you're being aggressive on almost every play. So that would be the biggest thing. Even going to St. Louis, it was the same thing with Greg, just the aggressive style.
Now, when you came in for Jonathan Vilma, when Vilma was injured, were you calling the defense too?
Yeah. So there's a few times when I became a starter. This was probably 2011, 2012 or so. I was playing Sam linebacker, but Vilma, he really hurt his knee really bad. So I was playing a lot of Mike linebacker, and I was calling plays and setting the defense and things like that. It was a little bit of an adjustment, but not that big of an adjustment. I played middle linebacker in college, so I'm very used to being in front of a team and being able to call the plays and set fronts and make checks and things like that. But yeah, so I took over those duties for Vilma.
Was Vilma a lot of help for you getting?
Vilma has always been a mentor of mine. We're still really good friends. We both live in Miami. I see him. We hang out every once in a while. But Vilma literally helped me become a professional football player. There was the first person I gravitated to when I first got to New Orleans. He's always been a friend. He's always helped me out. He's unselfish in any knowledge that he has. So Vilma is me playing 8 years in the league has a big part to do with Jonathan Vilma.
Well, he came in. He came to the Saints the same year you were a rookie in 2008. So y'all came in together.
Yeah,
and
we came to New Orleans together.
Yeah, I wanted him when he was in the draft coming out of Miami. I wanted Vilma to come to the Saints. The Jets got him, but I was so happy when he came to New Orleans because I knew he was what we were missing, and I'm glad he was there to help you because I've always praised his intelligence and his knowledge of the game, and you could really see that. And that's why I thought there wasn't much of a drop-off when you came in because you really understood what Greg Williams was teaching and what Vilma showed you.
Yeah, I paid a lot of attention to what was going on with Vilma and Greg when I was playing Sam linebacker or when I was doing spot duty in situations. So I kind of paid attention, but also, again, being able to talk to Vilma and him being able to communicate what he thinks and what he sees, that helps you as a young guy. It basically gives you the experience of a 10-year veteran when you can talk to him about it and he helps guide you through situations or plays or patterns, offensive patterns, all those things that you kind of have to learn on your own if you don't have a vet guy that knows what he's doing there.
Yeah. Sean, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to back up just a little bit. Given full credit here because we love to do the alma mater thing. Corcoran High School in Syracuse, New York. How did you not become an Orange man?
Corcoran High School, yes, shout them out. I didn't become, but this is the whole story. So I wanted to go to SU. I had a scholarship offer to Syracuse. So I go up there with my head coach at Corcoran, and we're sitting in there with Paul Pasqualone, and the offensive coordinator came in there, Greg DeLeon, I think that's his name. And they wanted me to play fullback for him at Syracuse University. And I looked at him and I said, I'm not playing fullback. I either play running back or I'll play linebacker. And he said, well, I don't think we have any room for you. And I was like, all right, not a problem. And I went to Boston College.
Well, see, that's one thing in researching you that I did find out. I didn't realize that when you were in high school, as a junior, you made second team All-State as a linebacker, but as a senior, you made first team All-State as a running back. How did that? So, and we could have used a linebacker last year, but right now we kind of short on running backs, and I know you probably still got some wheels left, right?
Oh man, I don't think I have NFL wheels left. Maybe in my younger days, I don't think I have NFL wheels left. But at Corcoran, I play both. I play both sides of the ball. I play linebacker and running back. We had a pretty good running back up to my junior year. But then they let me play my senior year. Let me get the bulk, the lion's share of the carries, basically my senior year, and I happened to explode. I think I ran for 21, maybe 2,200 yards that year. I had I think I had 5,000 or 6,000 yards in my career, something crazy like that. But it was a great time, and I enjoyed Corcoran. It was great. I just knew once I got to the next level, college and NFL, I knew that my running back days were over. I left those things right in Syracuse.
Well, moving forward just a little.
You start looking at guys like Reggie Bush and Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson. Yeah, I'm not a running back. I'll play linebacker.
A little bit of trivia. Like we said, you moved on from Corcoran to BC, Boston College, where you were only the fourth player. I don't know if people realize this either. You were only the fourth player in the history of the NCAA to return 2 fumbles for touchdowns in a game.
The same game. It was crazy. I almost fainted probably twice. One of them was 90 yards. I don't know how I made it. But no, it was a great game. I remember that game. It was we played Maryland. Actually, I think I maybe had 3 or 4 big plays against Maryland in my career. But it was one of those games where it was just a special time. The ball happened to fall the right way, and I happened to make a couple plays. But I do remember that. It was crazy.
And in the I was telling you earlier, I can remember watching you play in college but for some reason it never registered to me. In the 2006 Meineke Car Care Bowl versus Navy, I mean, that was a very, very watchable game. It went back and forth and back and forth. It comes down to Navy scoring with 1:43 left on the clock. And Boston College has no timeouts, and the Navy has the ball. And then there's a fumble. And JoLonn Dunbar recovers the fumble. A certain unnamed quarterback hit a 30-yard pattern to a wide receiver, and and I didn't write the quarterback's name down, but I wrote the kicker's name down. Steve Aponovicius.
You know something? I still can't pronounce his name. Aponovicius or something like that, but we called him AP, so I just call him AP.
Okay, well,
AP.
He kicked a 37-yard field goal as time expired for the 25-24 win to preserve Boston College's 7th consecutive bowl win. Now, for those who aren't in the know, would you like to reveal to the audience exactly who that unnamed quarterback was for the Boston College Eagles that year?
I mean, I would hate to say his name because we know we don't like those people from Atlanta, but Mr. Matthew Ryan. I'd hate to say his name though. We don't associate with the Falcons.
That's right. We got an Atlanta fan coming on later tonight, and he's going to rip apart Matt Ryan. We're going to do an armed truther contest about it too, because some of those passes he was throwing Thursday night kind of died on some of the players. So, but
he didn't play very well.
No, but and that leads to my next question to you, since you've played. Because there's a gap now, the way preseason games go, the starters and regular players play in the third preseason game, but the fourth preseason game really is kind of the people who are on the bubble.
Yeah.
So we saw kind of at least for 3 quarters, kind of a rough, almost a preseason-like game out of these guys, and you saw a lot of guys struggling with cramps, with conditioning and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you find that maybe that fourth preseason game, some of these starters should play for a little bit because they're having a hard time getting ready for the regular season?
No, I don't think that. Simply because after the third preseason game, it's like a short week. It's like 3 or 4 days before the fourth preseason game. There's no reason to risk a starter or a guy that's going to, make your team, that is going to make your team in such a game that's almost meaningless. I'm not going to say it is meaningless. But I think, and then as a starter, the days when I was, starting and making plays and things like that, we would take that time to actually look at our first opponent. Mm-hmm. So I think, it gives you an extra 4 days to start looking at your first week's opponent. I just think those guys, it's hard to simulate a game like a full-time game atmosphere, and you got to work yourself into that. Training camp helps you do that, but training camp also isn't as tough as it used to be.
Yeah.
So it may take a game or two before guys are definitely under, have their feet under them. But you're also talking about 2 very good teams. You're talking about 2 playoff teams, 2 great defenses, especially the Philadelphia defense. So, there's some things that are, that play into that probably made it look like a preseason game. But, those guys, I think both teams will be playoff teams this year, and they're going to get the thing right. One of them is going to be second in the division. We all know who that's going to be. But,
at least second.
I think that's going to happen.
Well, and my opinion has kind of been, I felt like in that first regular season game, especially for a team like the Eagles, the atmosphere, your first game as a defending champ, you're so hyped up that you forget it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you come out trying to make the big play early in the game, and you almost leave it all out too early, that you don't. You kind of wear yourself out.
Yeah, there's factors in it. You're trying to make the play. You're trying to, simulate what you did last year to win so many games. But also, you're also dealing with a team that's coming in that wants to knock off the champions. Philly's going to play with a bullseye on their back for 16 straight games. It's not going to be any other way. I don't care if they are 8-8, they're still going to have a bullseye on their back. And that's just the way the NFL works. You always want to beat the champions. I think a little bit of both played into, those guys maybe not playing the kind of football that we all expected them to play.
Well, I was at the 2010 game when we opened up against the Vikings as the Super Bowl champion. And I saw a lot of that same kind of play out of us.
Yeah.
We, and Sean Payton even talked about that. He says, you really don't feel like you have an off season because you've got so much going on, and then you get your rings and you have all the you run the cocktail circuit, basically. And then it's OTAs, it's the draft, it's mini camp, it's the training camp, and then, the season's on you. You feel like, man, we just got finished playing football.
Yeah. Absolutely. Obviously you're playing all the way through February, and then once you win it, I mean, you're going on a victory parade. I mean, it's just it is what it is, and that victory parade might last 2 or 3 months, and
especially in New Orleans during Mardi Gras.
Especially in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. I mean, 2 or 3 months. I think it lasted 6 months. I mean, I'm I don't know how we pulled out 10, 11 wins that year. Maybe I think we maybe won 12. I don't know how many wins we got, but I don't know how we pulled it out. Simply because you're on that celebration, and everybody you're supposed to be on that celebration. It's one thing you work for your entire life. But it's difficult. It's difficult to refocus and be able to win and understand that it takes one game at a time, one play at a time, one series at a time, things like that. So, if whoever can do that, hopefully we can get the Saints to do that and make some things happen and be able to take themselves back down that victory road.
Well, let me ask you this: there's a lot of guys like ourselves these days talking about those 4 letters that everybody hates, GOAT. If you had, I mean, you can offer a perspective that neither of us and the people that we rub elbows with regularly, you can offer a perspective that none of us have. You've been on the field with some of these guys. If you had to choose between Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers, who would you choose?
You already know. 9, 9, and 9 every time. I'm choosing Drew every time. Every time. And it's so funny. I have these same discussions with some of my old buddies and college buddies and things like that. And I say the same thing. I'm taking Drew Brees every time. I just don't. There's no way I can pick anyone else. There's no way. I know who he is. I know how much he cares. I know how well he is. I know how great he is. And he's just a fantastic player. He's a phenomenal player.
Well, you see, and I was going to say real quick, staying on that theme, you were with St. Louis.
Yes.
So you played against the Saints as well. You played against Drew Brees.
Yeah.
What was it like that game week when you have to go up against Drew Brees? What is it like on the other side when the coach is preparing you?
I mean, when it comes to those kind of guys, you're just trying to slow them down. Like you're really, it's not like okay, we're gonna take away this, we're gonna take away that. No, it's like we want to take away this, we want to take away that. What we want to do is slow that down as much as we can or as best as possible. So that's the kind of. I mean, and then as a former player who I've played with him, I know some of the stuff that's going on and what he's doing. And there's times that I'm sitting here like, yeah, he's about to sneak the ball. He's going to sneak. And, he sneaks the ball. And I'm sitting here like, bro, I told us, like, what else you want me to do? But and, he sneaks it for a first down. I'm like, I don't know what else you want me to do here. But in those situations, you're just trying to slow these guys down, man. You can't stop, Drew Brees. You can't stop him, and that's the truth. And Sean Payton's he and Drew are they're well-oiled machines, and that offense is a well-oiled machine. It's very hard to stop. You just want to take away a few things and see if they can play left. See if you can make them play left-handed.
Well,
who's the greatest player you ever played against in the NFL?
The greatest player I've ever played against. When it comes to that, it has to come back to quarterbacks. And then it would be Drew, Tom, and Aaron. Those 3 are the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Whether it's commanding the offense, whether it's making the throw, whether it's just their knowledge about it. But it would have to be those 3. And again, I would pick 9 every time.
Well, go ahead, Al.
I was just say, me marveling in the stands, watching it, going, how did he even see that? Because a guy is covered and he throws him open, but it wasn't even his first read or his second read. It was his third read. And I'm like, how did you even know where to put that ball? Because you don't have the time to make the decision. You just know.
So this is really one of his secrets, which I don't know if anyone else does this in the league. So when he's in, 7-on-7 or he's in passing drills, when we're doing anything team-wise, like he will go through every single progression. Like he will go through his first progression, actually throw the ball, and then go 2, 3. Like he has trained his body to throw the ball to number 1 or throw the ball to number 2 and then still look at where 3 is and still like move his feet to where he would be throwing to 3. Like, he just takes those mental reps. And I don't know if anyone else does that, but I think that is what separates him from a lot of the other guys, obviously, when it comes to being able to read through the progression and still make that throw. He always mentally and physically reps those throws, even when he makes the right decision the first time. It's really, it's phenomenal to even watch. And I've mentioned that to a few quarterbacks, Sam Bradford, like, you know, a couple of guys that I think this is something that you could benefit from. But you know, it's something that some people take, some people don't, some people learn from it. But being around him for so long, 5 years or so, and being able to see him do that, I think that was something that separated him from a lot of guys in terms of getting through his progressions and being able to make the right throws.
I think that the value of number 9, and here again, this is something that I was going to ask you to speak to earlier. The value that you have in a Drew Brees is not it's not limited exclusively to the stats that he puts up in the stat sheet. Could you speak a little bit about what Drew is to that locker room, to that organization, and to that city?
I mean, as we all know, what he is to the city is far beyond what we can necessarily put into words. But he embodies everything about the city, about the franchise, about the team. He's one of those guys who gets up early, stays late. He's one of those guys who work hard. He's one of those guys that's doing everything the right way. And he's unequivocally the leader of that team. And he has been that. He's been that since I got there in 2008. So I'm pretty sure he was that in 2006 or 5 when he got there. But that's just, what Drew brings to the table is much more than football. Much more than football. The way he competes every day against the ones, against his own team, against the quarterbacks when they're doing their little funky quarterback things that they do at the end of practices. Just the way he works every day is something that New Orleans is about. And that's just how the city and the franchise have literally just got behind him as a person and how he goes about business. And I think that's what's more than football for Drew and for New Orleans.
JoLonn, I know you're heading to a party, but I got to ask, where the heck is this party? Because it seems like you've been driving forever.
So she's lost. So to be
okay, all right.
So that's why.
So you got us on. You've got us on Bluetooth, and the navigation system is off. So
yeah,
tell her
she's lost. That's the problem. But we're fine.
Well,
we'll get there.
Okay.
See, what you don't know is she and I worked this out. We needed to get this interview in. She just cooperate.
There you go. I believe that too. I believe that. All day she said, "What time is your interview? What time's the podcast?" So I believe it. I think you guys have all worked together.
Well, I tell you what, she's a lot better than I would be if I was lost. And you'd be hearing me cussing and everything else. Like, where in the hell? And I've been wondering if she's driving in circles and things like that. Like,
I'm telling you, we've stopped at maybe 2 different places and it wasn't the place. So we're completely lost right now.
Oh,
we're gonna have a guest join us. He's kind of like the unofficial third member, and he's actually looking forward to having you as a guest as well on the BAYOU BLITZ. Bob Rose. He was supposed to be on with us one night and wound up working late. And I told him, just get home. We're gonna go ahead. You can join us when you get to where you can. Yeah. And he calls us from the car coming home from work. He's smoking a cigarette, holding the cell phone, and it looks like something out of Death Race 2000. I'm sick. I'm getting nauseous sitting there looking at the video feed, and there's lights going off every which way. Bob terrifies me.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, Al.
No, you go ahead and ask your question.
I was just let me see. What else did I have here? This may be. I'm not trying to be nosy. This is just something that I always ask when I do an interview with a former player.
Yeah.
Especially in the NFL world, the players always tell you, play your heart out, put everything you have into it every day, so that when you get to the end, you have no regrets for the career that you had.
Yeah.
You were an 8-year linebacker in the league. Looking back on it now, is there anything that you honestly regret? Oh my goodness, he's not in Death Race 2000 anymore.
No, he's Farmer Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Joel, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, man. I heard him talking about me. I had to come on to defend myself real quick.
Yeah, he was talking about you, brother.
But anyway, it is looking back on it, and I don't mean like losing this game or not playing for the. Is there one thing that if you could go back and try it again, that maybe you might want to do a little differently?
No, I don't think there's anything I would want to do different. It was it was a magical ride. I mean, to say the least, about a guy who, made it through Boston College, was, had the disappointment of not being drafted, but making a team, playing 8 years, winning the Super Bowl, meeting some great people, playing with some great teammates, some Hall of Famers, some Saints Hall of Famers, some like national Hall of Fame players. It's hard to put into words, and it's hard to sit here and say that I regret something. I don't think I regret a single day. I think every day that I was there, I worked my tail off. I tried to be the best teammate, best player that I can be. So, no, when you leave this game, you want to leave with what we call M&Ms. You want to leave with money and memories. So, I think I left with both of them, so I'm happy about that.
Well, you wore a special number to me. 56 is a special number. I don't know how much of the history of that number you know with the Saints. Do you know who Pat Swilling is?
Yes. So prior to getting to New Orleans and prior to having that number, I had no clue. But once you get there and you say, yeah, I'm number 56, the first thing people say is Pat Swilling. So it's one of those things where you kind of you learn about it. And that's what I did as a player. I kind of learned about Pat Swilling, the Dawn Patrol, just how they transformed the defense and was able to, dominate on defense for New Orleans. I think some playoff games in there. It was something that I had to learn about. But coming from upstate New York, I had no clue.
Well, this is one of my favorite stories about Pat Swilling. And Bill Parcells, who's a huge influence on Sean Payton. Bill Parcells tells this story, and Peter King, the sports writer for Sports Illustrated, likes to repeat this story a lot. But here's what happened. You know who the other famous number 56 is in the NFL, and that's Lawrence Taylor. Okay. Yeah. So one day, the Giants were scheduled to play the Rams. And for whatever reason, Lawrence Taylor had a hard time with this offensive tackle named Irv Penke, who played for the Rams in the 80s. So Taylor comes in to his locker room, and back then they had stools and the old-fashioned cubby kind of lockers.
Yeah.
He sees an airplane ticket sitting on his stool, and it's to New Orleans. So he walks into Parcells' office, and this is classic Parcells motivation.
Absolutely.
And he says, "What's this?" And he says, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go down to New Orleans and go get Pat Swilling and send him up here. And you don't even have to switch jerseys. Y'all both wear 56 because he can handle Irv Penke, but you can't, evidently." So, after a few choice words, Lawrence Taylor storms out of the office, And then, needless to say, Irv Pankey did not have a good game that day.
I bet Irv Pankey never played well against Lawrence Taylor.
No, but it was a classic Parcells motivation. And
that is awesome.
Yeah, and it's always been one of my favorite stories because it just showed the level of respect that a player like Pat Swilling had, that Bill Parcells would use him as motivation against
awesome.
A Hall of Famer like Lawrence Taylor, who is, unquestionably one of the greatest linebackers in NFL history. So, especially outside linebacker. So, yeah. So, anytime a player wears 56, I always got to tell him, I said, hey, man, Pat Swilling did that jersey right. You got to make that jersey.
We got to tell DeMario about it.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the speed. He's got the speed, but he's got to close and make those tackles like Swilling did and like you did.
He's a physical guy, man. He should do well. I'm rooting for him.
I have to tell you, JoLonn, we've had some really special guests in the 2+ years that we've been doing this. Kyle Turley, Joe Horn, Tyrone Hughes. We have actually had one active roster player during the spring for our big pre-draft show was Art Millette. He joined us. Who am I forgetting?
No, I think you got the big four.
But
we tried some others, but yeah, that's the big four right now.
We've never gotten the kind of response on our active chat over here that we've gotten with you talking about what kind of great insight this interview has provided and what a great guest that you are. So from our active chat group, they want to say thank you very much for joining us tonight.
No, man, thank you, Bob, Alan, and Sean for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I hope you can find your way to that Gatsby party because I'm really curious how this is going to play out.
We just parked
just parked. Okay, good. I thought she was waiting and said, "Come on, wrap this shit up because I gotta hook up Siri and find out where the hell this place is." Gatsby gave y'all the directions.
Hey, I told you we worked it out. You notice that she gets there and parks just as the interview is winding down.
There you go.
All right.
Well, thank you, JoLonn, for joining us tonight.
All right,
we really
appreciate
this.
it. You have a good night, and let's go Saints. Who that?
Who that?
Thanks, JoLonn.
Yeah. All right, brother. Take care.
Well, that was fun. That was a
really
lot of fun. Because when he said he was on his way to the Gatsby party, and the whole time he's talking, I'm like, I'm not paying attention. I am paying attention to what he's saying, but I'm not really looking at him. I'm looking behind him, where in the hell are they going? It's like an hour they've been driving.
I'm listening to him talk, and I'm going, damn, that party must be a long ways off because she's still driving.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even, we forgot to ask him where he is now.
He's around Miami.
He's where?
He's around Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, I still chat with him every now and then. Like you guys mentioned to him, I'm hoping to get him on the BAYOU BLITZ soon. He has a crazy busy schedule. He just joined up with a business venture, a big time business venture, and athletic performance within the last year. But yeah, I mean, as far as I knew, he was still around the Miami area.
Well,
I tuned in. I tuned in. I saw him driving. What's that?
I said, I think this party was in Key West. I mean, because he was driving for a while.
I'm not so sure they didn't speak Cuban at the party. Because they were driving.
We're over in Sarasota for the week, and I first tuned in, and I'm like, is he driving? And then, like Alan said, he keeps driving and driving. I'm like, should I start looking out the window to see if he's pulling up outside?
Yeah, I'm telling you. So that's just how my mind works as I'm watching this thing going, where in the hell are they going? Because I was worried at some point in the interview, he was going to be like, look, guys, I'm here. We got to go, that kind of thing, which would have been perfectly fine. But still, it's amazing. Well, I'm glad we timed that interview well because That was perfect. That was great. He told some great stories, so that was great.
Real quick, before we get any further, I want to welcome another very special guest that I have been trying for almost over 2 years now to coordinate schedules with and get on. I'm very happy to welcome to Under the Dome podcast, Mr. Kyle T. Mosley. How are you doing tonight, Kyle?
I think he muted us because he had something going on.
And can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. I don't know if you muted us or not.
Look, I'm technically disadvantaged because my son is not here right now. He does the video stuff. So I apologize. You can't see me at this time.
Well, actually, you probably are the best one of the four of us in here, because people will say all the time when they look at this video, I wish I couldn't see these guys either.
No, man, look.
Bob has been threatening all day to come on shirtless. and I was like, dude, no, please.
Just for you, Sean, I wore 2 shirts tonight.
Yeah, I see that. I appreciate that, and so does the viewing audience.
I'm sure they do.
Hey, Alan and Sean, and hey, Bob, how you doing? I would say, if you guys want me on, that's the best way to have pesticide. Just put my picture up. So okay.
Well,
there you go,
Kyle. Of all of us here at this particular moment, you've been doing this probably longer than the 3 of us combined. Real quick, for those people that don't know, could you give a little background as to not only who you are, who you're with, and all, and give us a little insight into how you came to do all of this?
Lifelong Saints fan. Grew up a Saints fan from the games at Tulane Stadium to the Superdome. Ride and died and cried a lot.
That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. Look, man, my dad was good friends with Bob Pollard, and Bob's in the Saints Hall of Fame, and I just grew up a Who-Dat before we were Who-Dats, right? I started Saints News Network 9 years ago, and the Saints since 2006 season when Reggie came on board. Our first website was deuceandreggie.com, and then we started doing the podcast right after the championship season, and we've just been rolling ever since, man.
Well, Bob Pollard, for those of y'all who don't know, Bob Pollard was a defensive end for the New Orleans Saints. He was number 82. He played until 1978 when we traded him to St. Louis, the Cardinals, in exchange for Ike Harris. So a little bit of history there for you. But I remember Bob Pollard.
Yeah, Bob was a good guy, good friend. He's in Beaumont, Texas now.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, he was a very good defensive end for the Saints. And I see Tony's joined us too.
Yeah,
what's up, guys?
The founder of the feast, man. It's been a while since you've been with us, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. What's up? Bob is like Benjamin Button. Back to childhood.
The smarter one of the two.
Sorry to disappoint you, Tony.
Oh, dang, he's back.
But that transformation was seamless, dude. God, you went there to there to there and back. Wow.
Wasn't it? It's like a before and after picture, right?
Oh wow, we even got Lauren on the show. How about that?
We do have Lauren on the show.
She's gonna punch me in the face when we see her next.
She's gonna beat the hell out of me because we're on a family vacation. I keep breaking away to do articles for Canal Street, and gonna do a post game after the show tomorrow, and with you guys tonight.
She just looked at you that like if looks could kill, you would have just died a very slow and painful death.
I knew it.
You may want to rethink that post game. and there's Chunk. Hey, Will.
Say hi, John.
Hey. Dude, I don't know you. Stop talking to me. I don't care if you are on TV. Don't get weird.
Wilson, you gotta impress me.
But anyway,
yeah, back to football. Sorry.
I'm so glad that we were able to get Kyle on tonight. Like I say, for 2 years we've been trying to coordinate our schedules, and if I had an open time, he wasn't available, and if he had the time, I was already booked. But we all got together for your show Wednesday, correct?
Yeah, Wednesday.
That was a lot of fun, and it's always a great time getting to hang out with you guys and do that. It was really weird sitting there doing y'all's show, and I could hear Alan talking, and I couldn't see him, and I'm like, how am I supposed to know when he's done talking? I can't see his face. So
you're lucky. Consider yourself blessed.
Let me get the rest of the guys to join us real quick, and we'll get this party started.
We had a lot of fun having you guys on the show. I like doing this crossover show kind of thing. Tony, we definitely want to get you on at least a couple times this year when our guys play each other. If we can get your schedule freed up.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty flexible.
I mean, you guys have been so big and helping get the BAYOU BLITZ started, helping Kyle give me the confidence to do this kind of thing. And everything that we try to do, I take cues from you guys, advice from you, or just jotting down tips from watching what you guys do and things like that. So I'd like to think anyway that our show is very much a model after what you guys do. So I appreciate that.
Tony, how is your show doing? I haven't checked it out recently, unfortunately. I have to admit that. But how is it doing?
Well, 5 years running every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We go live and we have fun and just talk about football. We're growing each and every week and having a good time. We're excited that football's actually here, and we can, now there's too much to talk about.
Yeah.
That's how I find is that each week the problem with us is that as we get more and more people involved in the show, more and more listeners, more and more questions and calls, we could go all night long talking about the third string of the Panthers roster. And so once you give us a little film to talk about too, we'll go on for days about whether we're too blitz heavy or not.
Well, we're going to get into it a lot more, of course, as the show evolves. But who's on your show right now? It's you, and who else is on the show?
Myself, Joey Riolano, and Aaron Ford. We call him Mel Mayock, and he is in and out. He's had a lot going on in his life, and now we have Cody Lachney, who has been on your show now, who is joining us. And he's helping produce the show and get some of the digital content for it. So, yeah, we just we have a lot of listener interaction, each and every week. And so we just have fun and chop up football.
Well, that's great. That's great. How is the ownership change and the transition from that and kind of the fallout after that? What kind of impact is that having on the Carolina Panthers?
Well, right now everything is rosy at this moment. Like in December or November, I think it was December when the bombshell news of Jerry Richardson and his creepy behavior emerged. And I think the ownership of the Carolina Panthers have been far removed from the team in many ways. Like he was just the problem is he modeled himself a little bit too much as a plantation overseer, I feel like. Our plantation owner who just stayed away from everything and watched what he believed he owned. It seems like from everybody, from the stadium to the people. And I mean, he hadn't addressed the Carolina Panther fans since 2010. during the lockout year. I mean, he's just been up there in the box. He never says anything. And so, look, it's been a fresh breath of air to have a owner who is kind of a self-made man. You know, I don't know if you guys know a lot about David Tepper, but David Tepper is a billionaire. He's an 11 billionaire, and he came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
just a blue-collared kid, I think, and got into invest, working in a hedge fund, moved his way up through Goldman Sachs, and then when he was not promoted, I don't know if you guys know this story. It's a fantastic story. He was not promoted, and he felt like it was time for him, I guess, to be a vice president or something like that. So he left and goes and starts his own fund. And in the process, he made one trade that was worth $7 billion. He bought Bank of America at $3 and then sold it at 30. But the coolest part about this is that he bought his former boss's mansion in the Hamptons. And so the guy that would not give him the raise and the promotion, the title, he ended up buying his house because I guess that guy had hard times in the financial stuff of 2008. And then to spite him, he destroyed the home and built a bigger one on top of the ruins.
That's unbelievable.
It's called a revenge. It's the Revenge Mansion. And, it's great, man. It's fantastic. He's come in, he's been very open, been very engaged with the fans. And one of the things that was really kind of is a symbol of that is you're going to see this year, and they're going to unveil it tomorrow, that at midfield, the Panthers will have the logo of the team rather than the NFL shield. And I know from the outside, it probably seems silly that Panther fans get so excited about that. But again, I think it just shows how kind of out of touch Jerry Richardson was, and that this guy is really looking to ingratiate himself from the beginning.
Well, it personalizes it. It personalizes the stadium for the fans because, you feel like you're just in a generic stadium. It doesn't feel like it's the Panthers stadium compared to the other one. So, no, I totally get that. Now,
how about on the field, though? I mean, bringing in Norv Turner, a lot of people thought that Cam Newton's game, his style of game wouldn't fit into Norv's style of offense. Sort of the round peg for the square hole, or whatever the case may be. Is Cam? You guys feel like Cam's picking up that offense pretty well?
Oh, unbelievably! And now I feel like this. There was a ton of Panther fans that were upset about the Norv Turner hire. They were calling for that this was a retread, that this is a guy who had his success in the 90s, and then they tried to cite that he's a mediocre head coach, all these different things. And I've come to the conclusion that people who were kind of Norv Turner haters among the Panther fan base are under 25 years old. It's true. They're just children who are excited about the DeFlippios or these guys that they think are revolutionizing the game. But in many ways, the game is not as it's still helmet on helmet, hat to hat type football. And some of it is about pedigree. Look, Norv Turner is an offensive coordinator with the greatest pedigree we've had in our whole franchise history at this point. He's had more success than anybody who has ever called plays for our team. And I think one of the things when it came to Mike Shula is Mike Shula's game plans were never bad. It was, the problem was that he was not as flexible as he needed to be. Norv Turner seems to be able to do that. He's been known for playing to his players' strengths and also making adjustments throughout the game. But one of the things that I truly believe about Norv Turner is that he has the feel for the game. Sometimes it's not just knowing what play to call. It's when to call the play that's the dagger, and I feel like Norv has been in so many situations. I feel like he brings a quiet confidence. And one of the things I'm really excited about is that I believe that Cam Newton is bought in from the very beginning because he understands that Norv Turner's legit, rather than surrounding him with a Ken Dorsey who, had no success, who I don't know why Ken Dorsey, who is like 2 years older than him, was his quarterback's coach. And then Mike Shula, who has had a, ask a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan about Mike Shula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think Cam's hitting a new stage in his career, and I think he'll be able to exploit a lot of things that Cam does well. He's got a great arm, and I think we got some talent around him.
Well, it's interesting you make that observation about 25 here and younger fans, because I think we have that same issue in New Orleans. There's a lot of, because of Drew Brees' age, there's a lot of people, younger fans, who want a certain kind of quarterback to come in to replace Drew Brees, and they seem to all be in love with the run-pass option offense, the RPO offense, and they want that kind of offense. I'm like, guys, I don't think you realize how good we are on offense, and you want to throw all that away to follow some sort of trendy fad right now. And I just don't. It's because they don't know, they don't remember the Billy Joe Herberts and the the Billy Joe Tolliver and all the bad offense we had prior to Sean Payton and Drew Brees showing up over here, and they just get enamored with things they see in college football and think that is the future of pro football.
Well, so I think Bob mentioned, when he made the analogy or the comparison to the round peg and the square hole, is that, look, first of all, I think that, you can't beat a offensive system. Like, you got to play to what the players you get. Yeah, so you can't chase a player in that way. You can't try to, go after this and all of a sudden reform and refashion your whole offense just because it looks cool from the outside. I mean, if the players are there, if you get if a Cam Newton is a once in a generation type player, it would be criminal not to run him at times. So, but you don't need to go and try to force it. I mean, look at RG3. And by the way, we need to tell those kids to get woke, as they would say. And they need to realize that the run pass option, all that's like 4 years old now.
Yeah.
Like, what's the next evolution? Is that, so I think the thing is that Saints fans, you've had a great run with Drew Brees. Enjoy it because, look, we all know when we didn't have Cam Newton, I mean, when you got a great quarterback or one who, Cam Newton, despite what anybody says about him, every Sunday, no matter who's on the field with him, gives us a shot to win.
There you go.
And he's been a gamer all of his career, like you said, and I remember joining you guys on draft night, Tony. They finally surrounded him with weapons, more than just Christian McCaffrey. They brought in C.J. Anderson, who's a nice between the tackles runner. They drafted DJ Moore, and they added another receiver later on in the draft.
We got Torrey Smith that we got in a trade. We got Jarius Wright in free agency, and we also got kind of hopefully what's going to be the replacement for Greg Olsen and Ian Thomas at tight end, who's really a passing threat. So this is an offense where we've got more. Oh, and we had Curtis Samuel, who's really come on, but continues to struggle with injuries. You're right. We finally got some talent.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and I think I speak for the rest of the guys on the panel. I can't wait for Greg Olsen to call his career and get the hell out of Carolina because he seems like a great guy. He's a terrific player, but we hate seeing him twice a year, man.
Oh,
yeah, he's a Saints killer, dude.
I've wanted him since 2008. It still kills me that we took Robert Meacham instead of Greg Olsen back in 2008 because 2007. Sorry, 2007. And I'm looking at your background the whole time you're talking, and I noticed right above your head, in very small print, the Falcons blew a 25-point lead. Yes. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Subliminal messaging.
Hey, let me, if we could, let's just remind the world while we can right now today that the Atlanta Falcons are the worst team in football at this current moment.
That is correct. That is correct.
I wish y'all had waited till our Falcons guest got here so he wouldn't not log in because he was insulted.
I think it'll come up.
We got it out of the way. We got it out of the way.
Yeah. Y'all take it easy on Josh. Josh is a good guy. And if y'all had seen some of the messages that I got during Thursday night, y'all would know that he is he's not exactly classified as a homer. I've heard Julio Jones called much nicer things before than what he was called Thursday night.
Won't his fault.
No, it wasn't.
Man, throw him the ball where in a catchable space. My man caught it in the first row of the damn stands. But, you know, look, is that here, and we'll talk about the Falcons when they get here, but I think everybody knows that the NFC South is competitive. The only team that we're really not really anyone is worried about is Tampa Bay. And the reason being is that we won't believe it until we actually see it. Like, it doesn't have anything. I'm not trying to be mean to a Tampa Bay. I'm not trying to dump on them, but like, I'm not going to buy into anything with Tampa Bay until I actually see it happen. But with the Falcons, you know, that game, you saw that they got a lot of talent on that team. And to me, the thing that was the most scary about the Falcons was that their defense looked so much better than it has in past years. You know, their secondary with Trufant and who got robbed, I mean, just was getting terrible calls on him. So, you know, is that to me is that I think Gene is trying to call.
Yeah.
Here. Is he in trouble?
Hold on.
So, so when it comes to the Falcons, like I'm not panicking. Well, I'm not writing them off, but it is nice to see them lose. You know, we all get a head start this way.
Well, you know, I posted this on Facebook too. And look, just in time for Josh to show up. I posted this on Facebook, and this is how petty Saints fans are. They had more people in New Orleans watch the Atlanta Falcons game than they had in Atlanta watching the Falcons game. So that means more Saints fans were watching to see if the Falcons were going to lose than Falcon fans were watching to see if they could knock off the division and the Super Bowl champs. And that's just how petty we are. That's what makes a great rivalry, because, you know, you're watching your own rival. Oh, look, there he is. Good. Gene's here too. So, Josh, how's it going? We got you in now just in time to hear that insult. We were talking about your frustrations Thursday night. Let's hear it. What did you think about the game as cleanly as possible? See, Alabama played well. They destroyed poor Arkansas State. So I saw that. But the game we saw Thursday night, talk about what you saw and you know, what did you think about that performance, and what were the flaws you saw in that performance?
Oh, you know, I think not just me, but I think a lot of fans and supporters of the team are just tired of watching the same thing be repeated from it, making any adjustments. There specifically is the red zone thing has been an issue for I don't know, 10 years.
Yeah.
You have that. You start to look at it as a question of, is this a coaching or philosophy thing, or is it a quarterback thing? I don't know what the answer to that is, but until they figure out their red zone issues, they have about a 0% chance of doing anything in the playoffs, because you just can't win playoff games being that poor in the red zone.
Well, it's so early. It's so early. I mean, if you're panicking that much about, you know, is at this point, I wouldn't worry that much. Is that you guys moved the ball well. You played against one of the best defenses in the league. They were rusty in their own right. And then, but when you get down in the red zone, Fletcher Cox just doubles in size.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? It's one game, but this is not a one-game problem. This is a multiple-year problem at this point. I mean, if you go back and look at the playoff game last year against it's the 1 yard line or the 10-yard line. They can't run it in, and their passing game is just abysmal. And it's just the play calls almost don't even make sense some of the time. And if you look at that first drive in the game on Thursday night, Julio gets them basically down the field with 3 catches. He has a reverse in there as well. And then they take him out for 4 straight. I don't know why. I mean, I understand if he needs a breather for one play, but why isn't the best player on the field for your offense in there for that possession defense? It's, irrelevant to me.
It amazes me because you saw the Eagles triple team Julio in that last series. I just don't understand why they don't take advantage of that. And I mean, I'm not trying to help you guys because God knows I'm enjoying y'all losing. But why can't the Sarkisian take advantage of that and throw to somebody else? I mean, somebody's got to be wide open. Oh, I think Josh, your mic's out.
I'll tell you why. Is because we had to listen to Rodney Harrison for 3 damn corners say, you got to force it to him. You got to force it to him. You got to throw into double coverage. It was so silly. I hate Rodney Harrison. Sorry.
Well, Chris Collinsworth is your punishment. If you listen to Rodney Harrison, then they double the punishment with Chris Collinsworth.
I don't mind Chris
Collinsworth. A guy. Oh, if I heard the phrase RPO one more time, on a play action pass, I was going to jump through my TV because it's like, no, Chris, that's not the RPO. That's just a play action pass.
He's just a wide receiver, man. You're expecting too high a level of intelligence from just a wide receiver.
No, what you guys need to do is go back and look at some old Chris Collinsworth highlights from when he played for the Bengals, playing against that early 80s Chuck Noll defense, and we'll understand why Chris Collinsworth talks the way he talks right now. He ain't all upstairs anymore.
Yeah, he got lit up quite a bit.
All those that's like a 3-play collection right there. His greatest hits.
I always say it's hard to think when you're not used to thinking, and that's that's kind of Chris Collinsworth's problem.
Okay, before we get any further into this, everyone has met Tony and Bob, and everybody knows Josh, but just for the record, even though he's a Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson fan and an Atlanta Falcon and Crimson Tide fan, we're going to let him introduce himself anyway.
I've got
Josh,
so many questions.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpackage right there.
Did we get Josh's mic?
Josh, you back on? Your mic is good?
No, you got to drop out and come back in.
Yeah, we have no audio for you, brother. Oh, yeah. No. Well, no, okay, we'll come back to the Roll Tider. Moving on, representing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we have the big guy. Really, really good friend of mine. I've been fortunate and blessed enough to have been on his show many times, up to and including 3 days ago, whatever, that I was on there with him, and we discussed the upcoming game. Gene, tell everybody who you are and how they can follow your work, brother.
Okay, you can reach me on Twitter. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. If you're out on Twitter or iTunes, you can look for Buck What You Heard podcast. I love talking football, so it doesn't matter what team it is, except for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't mind talking with you. I love football. So
I like the reverb on your voice. It sounds more manly.
Oh my God! Oh.
Am I echoing?
He just yelled at his kid. No, then he just yelled at his kid.
Hey, you got a camera in here? Or, that's like CIA stuff, man. That's.
I know what a dad concerning. Yelling at their child looks like.
Okay, well, there is that. Okay, did we get Josh back?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now. Good.
Better.
Good.
Yeah, so thanks again for having me, guys. Sorry about
I need Josh's option because we can either see him and not hear him or not see him and hear him. And I've gotten tons of fan mail requesting that option actually for our broadcast with me. Anyway, Josh, tell everybody who you are, man.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. And so I've covered the Falcons in different capacities. Most, a little bit kind of taking some time off from that right now, doing a lot of stuff at the local high school level. I'm on Twitter as board, so active on there, and usually frustrated, very much watching Falcons games. You can always tune in for that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. The other night, some of those text messages that you were sending me during that game, I was wondering if you weren't just like copying down Rob Zombie lyrics, because there was some pretty colorful language that you were using in description of your red and black. Just saying. Yeah,
it's tough to watch, honestly. When you like I said, when you've had the similar problem, you really would like to see a resolution at some point. And at this point, like I said, I'm just not sure if it's a coaching thing or a philosophy thing. They've kind of built their team on speed on both offense and defense. And so I think because of that, they've really suffered in the trenches in terms of being able to punch the ball in from the 5-yard line in. When you have more agile offensive linemen and defense, it's hard to be physical up front and get that push that you need to get over the line. And I think it's been an issue for a while. And I don't necessarily know what the best way is to correct that besides just getting some big, strong offensive linemen to push some guys forward, or a big back, big power back. Because when they try to throw it, Matt Ryan just doesn't look comfortable throwing the ball in the red zone. He hasn't.
Is he healthy?
Yeah, a couple people have asked me that. I don't know. I mean, I never seen any reports of him being injured last year. But
there's no velocity on his passes.
No, there's none. And here's the thing: and if you go back a few years ago, before Kyle Shanahan got there, that's what it looked like. And then Kyle Shanahan got there. He did some different trainings. It was good for 2 years, and then it seems to have reverted back. So I don't know if it's the play calls or the situations they're putting him in, or if it's just kind of a coincidental injury situation. But he hasn't looked the same, ever since that MVP season. I mean, the throws were just amazing during that season. I was thinking to myself, like, where did he get the arm strength from all of it? Now it seems to have reverted back to where you're wondering what's going on.
Well, I've watched a lot of quarterbacks over the years, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with footwork. I watch footwork. I watch how they drive the ball with generating the velocity of when they step into a throw, get that torque, and really push that ball out there. And I watched both Matt Ryan and Nick Foles Thursday night, and both of them had trouble really just driving the ball. They were too hesitant in their throws, and when they would drive it, they'd throw a good pass and it would get there. But a lot of it was throwing all arm or off your back foot or whatever it is. So I think his mechanics are suffering. I really do. And I think you're probably right. You're probably right when you're saying that Shanahan got him to work on his mechanics. That improved his accuracy. That improved his arm strength. And that also made him a more successful quarterback. And that's now seems to have gone out the window. And he's regressed. So that's something
Shanahan is a quarterback coach, is he not?
Sarkisian's been a huge disappointment. I mean, if not a massive failure at this point, because you just don't see. It'd be different at this point if we seen some stretches where they were putting things together, but you don't see that consistently. It's almost the same thing week after week where they're not getting better. The play call isn't getting better.
Is this more execution or more play calling?
I think it's more play calling. Yeah, that's a great
question.
I mean, to be fair to him, they were up there in drops in the league last year. So the receivers didn't help, obviously, in that situation. But the way that Shanahan really constructed the offense, like I said, with that pass first kind of run on second and third down, or mostly second down in that case, really worked pretty well for them. For whatever reason, he was able to drive the ball. spots he's left, they haven't been comfortable.
Well, Gene, let's talk a little bit about Tampa Bay. That's our upcoming opponent this tomorrow.
Yeah.
How do you think? Whoa, there's a train there. How do you think they are ready for this Sunday? What do you see? I saw some players get put on IR. Unfortunately, Devontae Harris is one of them, because I was so looking forward to see Michael Thomas on Devontae Harris. But Brett Grimes is out too. So how do you think they're ready to go in that game?
If you guys put Devontae Harris on IR, y'all can go ahead and pencil that in as the roster move of the year.
Well, I think the Bucs do have a chance if they can execute the play calls. And you hear me talk about execution. That's going to be my big thing this year. Is before last year I was really looking at the play calling, but they weren't converting. They were playing out of place. You saw a lot of mistakes that the players were making, and you have to consider the level of talent. Well, they've brought in a Jason Pierre-Paul. They brought in a Vinnie Curry. You've got a Bo Allen from the Philadelphia Eagles, Mitch Unrein from the Chicago Bears. They pretty much revamped that defensive line. And the level of talent you saw last year, a lot of the guys that were, roster moves in the offseason, they're not playing in the NFL right now. You look at Chris Baker, Robert Ayers, and players like that, they're on the street right now. So they've really upgraded what they've done, and you're looking at a totally different defensive line. And then you consider the first-round pick, Vita Vea. We won't see him because of that calf injury, but just based on the lineup that they have right now, they're a lot better than they were that 5-win team you saw last year, and hopefully that will show tomorrow.
Offensively, obviously Fitzpatrick is going to be in for Winston, and we all know that Fitz is a quarterback that can get hot and tear a defense apart. And you guys have a wonderful receiving core. Are they going to be able to run the ball though, to kind of take some of that focus or some of that brunt off of the passing game? Peyton Barber has been erratic at best, and I know you guys drafted Ronald Jones. How's your running game going to look?
I'm excited to see this, just like you guys are. Peyton Barber looked good in the preseason, running in between the tackles. He's done a lot to improve his game from last year, and he won that position after moving on from Doug Martin. You have a Peyton Barber who actually played better than Doug Martin did last year, so it's really exciting to see him coming in here. And if he can get to those holes, it's definitely going to open things up. But when you have a O.J. Howard, you have a Cameron Brate, Chris Godwin, Deshaun Jackson, and the chemistry with Deshaun Jackson and Ryan Fitzpatrick has gotten better. Having a year under his belt playing in that offense has really helped him. And you'll see a marked difference from what you saw last year.
Well, this is going to be a standard question I'm going to ask almost all of y'all. If this team underachieves, if this team wins only 5 or 6 games, is Kirk Cutter out? Do you think that the Bucs are going to be wanting to move on to something else?
I could see that. I could definitely see that happening. I mean, they underachieved last year, but I guess when you look at the personnel that they had last year, there were a lot of players that didn't play like they were supposed to. It comes, and I was of the mindset last year that it was play calling, but when I've gone back and looked at the film, there were players playing out of position. There was a limited communication on the defense. Like when they had the 9-win season in 2016, I'll kind of go back there and then I'll go back to answer your question. You saw a team that played together. They played cohesively on the back end of the season when they had that stretch where they were trying to get into the playoffs. So you saw a team that played a lot better, but there was such disarray, and in a lot of these games, they couldn't stop the run. They were having issues getting those 3-and-outs where they could get the offense off the field and get their offense on the field. So there were a lot of issues with the defense, and a lot of those things have been addressed. I think they did a great job with the draft, getting a Carlton Davis and MJ Stewart and bringing those guys in, and we'll get a chance to see what they'll be able to do. With the loss of Brent Grimes, I think it's going to give these younger guys a chance to show what they can do. And they are the future. I mean, when you draft, when you're grabbing these guys in the second and third rounds of the draft, I mean, that's, it's important to get those guys out there and get them some reps.
What happened to Brent? Did Miko kneecap him or something?
No, he got a groin injury on Friday. So
okay.
he's out for this game. But again, it's next man up. These guys have to be able to play. As you get to the back end of the season, they're going to really need to, be out there and show that toughness. I love Brinston Buckner. I haven't got a chance to talk about him yet, but he's going to bring that mental toughness to that defensive line that we hadn't seen here for quite a while. I noticed one thing in the preseason, a lot of the defensive linemen are getting their hands up and batting down balls. So they're bringing a totally different mindset than what you've seen from this defensive line in the past. Joe McCoy is Joe McCoy, but it looks like they're going to get him some help.
They discovered Devontae Harris game film. He's the one that got kneecapped.
Well, so who is going to be starting in the secondary tomorrow?
You're looking at Vernon Hargraves, and I believe MJ Stewart is going to be MJ Stewart and Vernon Hargraves are going to be your starters, I believe. I haven't looked at I don't know if there's anything updated, but that's kind of what the tentative thing that I saw.
And they've got Drew Brees tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, man.
welcome to the league.
Yeah, welcome to the NFL.
And what's really exciting, too, is if that pass rush, if they can get to Drew Brees, we all know that, Drew Brees hates getting hit and being uncomfortable in the pocket. He's amazing at what he can do, but there are times where when he gets uncomfortable, it works out better for the defense.
Yeah.
Vernon Hargraves, he seemed to settle into a little bit of a comfort zone when moved into the slot last year. Now, obviously, you pointed out with Grimes out, he's going to be expected to continue to take on at least a little bit more of an outside role. Did he look a little bit more comfortable on the outside and on the boundaries this preseason to you?
Yeah, absolutely. He looks night and day. And, they say iron sharpens iron. Just having these young guys that are coming in here a lot more aggressive than some of the cornerbacks we've had in the past, I'm happy to see that. And hopefully that's what's been pushing him to play a little bit better than what he has, trying to get his confidence back. I think he has the physical tools to be a good cornerback. I think he lost a lot of his confidence, and hopefully he's getting that back at this time.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask this. I'm going to start with Tony. Real quickly, what is the expectation level for your team going in? Everybody, well, I'm sorry, Josh, but everybody except Josh is 0-0 right now on this panel. And I really didn't design it to be that way, Josh. I'm sorry. But going into this season, as this season begins, everybody is 0-0. What is your expectation level for the Carolina Panthers this season?
They got to beat Dallas.
We're gonna beat Dallas. Don't you worry. We're gonna manhandle Dallas. What we got here is that we were 11-5 last year, and we are better coaching, and we have better personnel and better coaching now. So to me, we better be playing at home when the playoff starts. If we ain't doing that, I want us to be resting because we got to have a bye. Like, I mean, that's just it. It's like, I mean, we've all been to the Super Bowl recently. Look, the Falcons were there two years ago. The Panthers were there 3 years ago. We've made the playoffs 4 out of 7 years with Cam Newton there. If I think anything less than 11-5 is a disappointment, we'll take 10-6 if it gets us in. But other than that, I think we're going to be that. Those are our expectations. Our expectations are get into the party every year. Now that we have a real quarterback, once you got, this is your time. So every year when you got a defense and you got a quarterback, I think you should expect to get into the dance.
Well, Tony, given that you've got a new owner and that's the expectation level, and I didn't know this until a few weeks ago. Carolina's never had back-to-back winning seasons.
Ever. Crazy.
Yeah. Cody
especially since we won the
division.
division.
Show with us.
Yeah, especially since we won the division 3 years in a row, and we still we didn't have a winning record one of those years.
Right.
We
That's
were 7, 8, and 1, I think.
Yes, exactly. So
no, we haven't. Yes.
So let's just say it's the same pattern, and they don't have a winning season. Is Ron Rivera out?
No way.
Okay.
Like I think we've had more success with Ron Rivera since 2011 than I think, if anything, that we'll let the Bucks fire their coach every year. Right. Sorry, Gene, but you guys did tend at one point to go on a 2-year let's fire our coach run, and I don't think that really helps. I think that Ron Rivera I think he's just fine, and I think Norv Turner is going to make him better. I truly believe that, and the guys like him. And wouldn't it be ridiculous to fire a coach that had 11-5 season last year, that had a 15-1 season 2 years before that? I mean, that's as ridiculous as firing Marty Schottenheimer when he was 14-2.
Yeah, I know. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because fans get impatient. I know the expectation level you set for the Panthers, that's pretty much the fan basis right now. They want to see, hey, you better be in the playoffs. You got an elite quarterback. You've done stuff to make your elite quarterback better. You need to be in the playoffs. And if you're not in the playoffs, you're not winning. We don't want to hear about injuries. We want somebody in there who's going to put us in the playoffs.
I think if it does go bad and we did have a 7-9 season or worse, or even an 8-8 season, is that it's Marty Herney, the general manager, who was our general manager for a decade between 2001 to 2010, and then was fired. Then we bring in Dave Gettleman, who was fired 3 days before the 2016 season started. And then you go and you hire Marty Herney again. Look, I've been very happy with Marty Herney. The Panther fans, they love to trash him. He's not been bad. He had a tough time in 2010 with contracts. That was his thing, or 2009 with contracts. But, I think that offensive coordinator, the general manager would go, then Ron Rivera would get another year. And, if you continue to do that, then you never know what a general manager would want to do, bring in their guys. Ron Rivera survived that with Dave Gettleman, and then he got back with the guy that hired him. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Tony, we got a question on the text line. Wants to know how big an impact will it be for the Panthers defense to play without Thomas Davis?
I think we'll actually is that Thomas Davis is a fantastic player. He has had a second, third wins. It's crazy how we drafted Shaq Thompson as a first-round draft pick 4 years ago.
Love that guy.
He's amazing, and we because we thought that the writing was, that he was going to start aging at some point, and then he went on this 2-year streak where he played the best football of his entire career. So I think you saw him kind of show a little bit of slowing last year. He didn't play bad, but and if you say that to any Thomas Davis lover, they'll be like, no way, he was great. And he was very good. But look, why did this PED thing come up? I don't know. I would say that generally that is when guys are trying to recuperate faster and they're having trouble keeping that edge late in their career. So they're looking for anything they can get if it just makes them feel better in the morning. But I think we could be not better. But look, you got a guy who could be just could step in no problem in Shaq Thompson. So I'm happy, I'm excited, and Shaq's going to get his chance to show off, I think.
Yeah, he's had a great preseason too, by the way.
Yeah, he's been great. And even he's bought into it. He's been tweeting the year of the 54, and it's a big deal for him.
Levante David.
Yeah. It's a big deal for Shaq because, look, he hasn't had a lot of opportunity. He's a first-round draft pick who has had to play in a rotational capacity. And then, these guys want their contracts. They want their money, and the only way you're going to get that is to show people what you can do. So I think Shaq Thompson is really excited about this, really motivated, and I think he's really just grown up, and I think he recently had a child. He's been very cordial with the fans, even more so than in the past. So I'm excited, and look, I think that we have the best linebacker core in the league, and I know that Gene won't want to hear that or doesn't like me saying that, but I will stand by it.
Okay, well, switching gears a little bit, we're going to go – everybody listens to Alan and I every week and what we think and how we feel about all this. So I want to put this question to Kyle and to Bob, representing the New Orleans Saints. What do you guys feel like the expectation level is for the New Orleans Saints this year?
Kyle?
Super Bowl, baby. What are you talking about? It's to win it all.
I knew what my expectation was, but
look, I told Bob on our program on Wednesday night, if you go into any season believing that you're just going to be there, we're just here to just make the playoffs, or you're just here to just show up and win a lot of games, you're in it for the wrong reason. And if you listen to Drew Brees enough this past off season with his interviews, his goal and focus is to be able to win the Super Bowl. And I believe these guys have it earmarked, and they're going to make that challenge for themselves to be the Super Bowl champions for 2019.
Bob?
You know what? I couldn't agree more. And Kyle, like Kyle said, we have talked about this a lot in the off season. I think that the absolute goal for this team is the Super Bowl. I think that they are set up to exactly do that. The season, we all, and our teams have all fallen victim to it. Falling short of expectations for whatever reason. With injury being the great equalizer, obviously. So assuming everybody stays healthy, if this team, and we also all know that the NFC is a loaded conference. If this team doesn't at least land in the NFC Championship game, then I think that the whole year should be considered a colossal disappointment. It's very tough to say if we don't end the year as Super Bowl champions, the year is a disappointment. Yes, the team is built for that. Yes, the team is talented enough for that. But they also recognize that stuff happens, for lack of a better term. But the team is set up for a long and sustained run well beyond this year. You look at the roster beyond the age of Drew Brees and how many talented Pro Bowl caliber players are on this roster, at the age of 25 years old or younger. They've drafted well. They've made some smart undrafted free agent decisions and decisions late in the draft to bolster their depth, something that they did struggle with during that 7 and 9 trifecta. But having said that, they also know that their quarterback is about to be 40 years old. He's much closer to the end than he is the beginning or even his prime. I think that every move that they have made this offseason is with a design on another Lombardi trophy.
Agreed.
I agree.
Moving on to the pirate ship, Big Gene. I don't think that it's exaggerating it to say that the Buccaneers are beginning this season sort of at a disadvantage, and I use sort of loosely. You're without your franchise quarterback for the first 3 games of the season, and I have absolutely no interest in going down that rabbit hole. But the bigger issue at hand is the fact that you're playing in the NFC South, which I believe that all of us on this panel agree with is the very absolute most competitive division in football, bar none. How is that going to affect the overall outlook on you guys' season moving forward?
Whether it's next man up. He has to go out there and play, and it's about wins and losses. it's right now. Dirk Cutter is on the hot seat. They have to win these games. They have to go out and play lights out this season. Last season, very high expectations. You had the national media looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go to the playoffs, and they end up as a 5-win team. I believe that 5 wins humbled a lot of players and put things in perspective. And my expectations are high. It's all about wins and losses this year, and they just have to go out there and execute. That's what it's going to come down to. So yeah, you guys, everybody that's on this panel, your teams have all put themselves in a position to get in the playoffs and go into the playoffs. So that you of course you've got expectations of Super Bowls. For me, as a fan, I'm looking at wins and losses, and that's what it all comes down to. First game, second game, third game, all the way through 16. It's all about wins and losses and making improvement along the way.
Yeah, it's been a decade since you guys have been to the playoffs, correct? Because it's 2008 was your last playoff.
I lose sleep about that. Yeah, absolutely. It's and there have been so many. We've gone through general managers and head coaches, as Tony alluded to, and finally getting somebody and trying to keep people in the same system. That's been the key, and I think you'll see that quality of play should be a lot better. The practices and the preseason was really good this year, a lot better than I've seen in I'd say the past 5 years, 6 years. So I'm really looking forward to this season and seeing this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Like you guys, I've only got to see the first string team through the first half and into the third quarter of that third game of the preseason. Got a lot of new faces on the line and on the defensive line especially. So getting to see all those guys together, I'm just like you guys, just waiting to see what they can do when they hit the field.
Josh,
that brings us to the red and black attack.
Yes.
I put him last because at the last opportunity that he and I had to talk, he wasn't really feeling giving me good expectations for his team, so I wanted him to chill and kind of hear what everybody else had to say. Josh, what do you?
I will say that I went out on a limb and actually picked Atlanta in my pick'em league. They should have won that game if it weren't for all that laundry on the field.
True.
Yeah.
The ever-presence of the NFL officials, right? Just more and more every game. It drives me nuts. I think expectations for us are similar to the Panthers in that, we need to be – we've been a consistent playoff team over the last few years, even gotten to the Super Bowl. And so once you do that, you've got to set that expectation and then continue to meet it. So I would say definitely making the playoffs, whether it be as a division winner or as a wild card, I don't know. Like a couple people said, the NFC is just filled with really, really good teams. And so not all of them are going to get in. And, you hope you're on the right side of that. But, of course, like I said, there's no excuses for them now. They have a talented enough team to do a lot of damage. It's just a matter of putting it all together on the field. So I would say definitely a playoff team for sure. You'd like to win a playoff game or two, no doubt. I don't know that you could say Super Bowl or bust with how competitive the NFC is.
Sure.
It's just very deep from top to bottom. So any given Sunday. And their schedule really is not favorable right out of the gate. So you obviously have one loss already. And then you've got to play the Panthers, the Saints, the Bengals, and the Steelers. So a couple of those games are at home. But, really the only game that you could look at and say that's a game we should definitely win is the Bengals game. And even them, they've made some good moves and they could be pretty competitive. So, and we've never historically played them well either. So, not that they're going to go 1-5 out of the gate. I don't think that would happen. But I think if you come out of that 3-2, you're really happy. And that kind of sets you up for an easier back half of the schedule.
Josh, do you see a situation happening there in Atlanta where if y'all underachieve, if y'all end up going, say, 7-9 or 8-8, that there'd have to be some changes?
Yeah, the first change is going to have to be an offensive coordinator. It's not going to be the head coach or anything like that. It's not going to be the quarterback, obviously, with all the money he's been given.
Not going to be the wide receiver either.
Yeah, not going to be the wide receiver. So, yeah, I would say if that happens, the fans would be screaming at that point for a change. You'd have no choice but to ultimately move on to Sarkisian and probably get somebody with NFL experience.
Yeah.
Because really, that's the one thing that you can point to as a difference. Really, the defense has been really solid and pretty strong overall. So you just point to that offense and say, hey, this is what the issue has been. Let's fix it. I think that would be the issue to fix.
Well, you mentioned the defense. How is the loss of Neal for the season going to affect the defense now?
Yeah, it's huge. Very concerning. I mean, talk about not only being frustrated from a loss, but then coming out of that game with that type of player hurt. That's really pretty much the heart and soul of the defense there. The guy who gives a little bit of fear in every receiver who goes over the middle. He covers tight ends for us, plays the run probably better than just about any safety in the NFL. And so you don't have that now, and you're going to an undersized guy who's really talented, albeit in DeMonte KZ, but a completely different type of player. And just I think it's really going to hurt their ability to stop the run. And so that's going to be tough when you start playing some of these teams that have great running games, right? Like the Saints, the Rams, the Vikings, the Eagles, all these teams you expect you.
Yeah. Well, here's.
I do have an Atlanta question though. Is Freeman healthy?
Well, the thing was he tore his MCL last year, and he supposedly, I guess he got some kind of surgery done on it to fix it, and then they kind of let him rest most of the offseason, but then he came out game and got hit again in the knee, and then they were worried about it again. So I don't know. He doesn't look like it to me. I mean, he hasn't really been effective since the first few games of last season.
Yeah, they held him out on the back end of that game on Thursday night. That's why I was kind of concerned.
From the outside looking in, from somebody that's been on the other side of having one of those ACL tear injuries, it did not look good for him. He looked like he tweaked it again.
Was he the one limping on the sideline late in the game? Okay, that's what I thought. Well, I'm going to ask the loaded question because this is something that I've just been thinking about. Is there a possibility the Falcons bring in a guy like Eric Reed to play safety to replace Neal?
Yeah, I heard that thrown around. That's kind of interesting. Typically we're not a team to really bring guys in from the outside like that in a situation like this. They usually believe in their internal depth. They do think that KZ's ready. They were going to give him a lot of time kind of playing nickel and moving him around. So now he's going to have an opportunity to prove himself, and he had an excellent preseason. He was one of the highest.
Okay.
So it's a positive sign. They're going to give him the first shot.
It's a shame that Eric Reed is not in the NFL at the moment. And if there was, look, Atlanta is a city I think that would embrace Eric Reed. But still,
replace one LSU guy with another.
It's just terrible to think of that. There's such a good play, or he's not. Even if we don't have to make him out to be like this greatest safety ever, is that there is like Trey Boston is in the NFL. I mean, like there's other guys that are just. Colin Jones is in the NFL on the Panthers. I don't understand.
Kenny Vaccaro still has a job.
Yeah,
who's he with now?
Tennessee.
It took a long time for him to get any work, though. But I mean, these guys, I don't know how
he had to sign a contract
so toxic about it.
He had to sign a contract that dictates that he parks cars when they have an event after hours. But yeah, he's playing for Tennessee now.
Well, here's the thing too, because all the things you just described that Neal did for the Falcons, cover the tight end, is a good run defender. I mean, you're describing Eric Reed. You really are. You're right. Go ahead. Oh, poor Josh keeps freezing.
Boost Mobile.
Well, and what happened? What just happened? Everybody started laughing.
Tony.
Tony happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, he dropped out, and he's going to come right back in to try and finish his thought. But that's my thing, because if Eric Reed, the excuse has been, and you guys have all touched on it, the excuse has been, you know what, he's just not good enough. We don't have an injury. We don't need him in the system. We're waiting for a starter to go down, and we can bring him in. This is the ideal situation for a guy like Eric Reed to come in.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking the question of Atlanta, because I want to see what the feel is for that. Because, you know, your best player on defense, in my opinion, is an LSU guy, number 45. I can't stand him. I don't even want to say his damn name.
Nope.
But he's a Saints killer. He is fast. He's just a great player for that defense. And I can see you going to another LSU player to run that kind of fast defense. So your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, sorry. Got bad weather here, guys, so I'm kind of in and out. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, so like I was saying, is the thing is I think the way teams look at it a little bit differently than fans is they put all these hours and coaching effort into bringing these guys up to speed, these backups and these practice squad guys, that they want to put those hours invested on the field. So I think that's a lot of times why you don't see teams look externally first in terms of they believe that the guys they have in-house are more prepared basically to step in. So not to say Eric Reed's not qualified to do it. I'm sure he absolutely is. He had some pretty good years in San Francisco, but they're going to give other guys a chance first that have been there, know the system, and have put a lot of hours and practice reps with that system on the field before they'll bring in somebody externally.
Is there a team, though, in the NFL that has a better chance of receiving the fan base of player Eric Reed than, say, like a New Orleans? I'm trying to think of what teams would that just it not be a bother to the fan base, because this weird thing that the fans are so threatened by a player who's barely made a statement. That's my thing. It's like barely anything. Yeah. And we're all, but this is, and I like, it just doesn't make any sense how a good football player isn't on a football team. And it does seem like Atlanta, given this injury now, and look, I mean, it is like the largest, one of the larger black cities or larger black populations in the United States. Like, I mean, good God, if we can forgive all these other players throughout the league for all the crappy stuff they've done, or these owners who do all kinds of ridiculous crap all the time, why is this such a big damn deal? I don't get it.
Well, I think it's going to be dictated. There is nothing that matters so much as winning or losing. You have a team like an Atlanta Falcons who is supposed to be winning, is supposed to be competing for the playoffs, be competing for the Super Bowl. You let them lose 2 games because they lost a star athlete, and they're going to be willing to maybe curb their expectation level for what turns their stomach, so to speak.
Well, it shouldn't turn their stomach unless he's coming up into those, like, meeting with general managers, like dressed like the Black Panther from the 60s or something. Like, I mean, what could he really be doing that is so controversial that you can't even bring the dude in for a workout? We haven't heard.
I mean, Greg Hardy was playing for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Yes.
It's the politics of it, Tony, and you know as well as I do that if you get on the opposite side of the National Football League on a political issue like that, they will do everything within their power and means to bury you.
Michael Bennett's still in the damn league. It's not like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It bothers me because I'm not saying that I don't get these protests. Didn't bother me one bit. I think the NFL handled it terribly. And I think they continue to handle it terribly. This would have been a blip on the radar. They've made a huge deal out of it, and they're making it worse than it is. Give the damn. I mean, these are collusion. And if you don't believe it, then like, why doesn't this dude have a job?
Well, you know, and I'll bring back the AFL All-Star Game in 1965. It was supposed to be played in New Orleans, and it ended up being in Houston because of segregation. You know, the black players refused to play in New Orleans because they had to stay in the black hotel, and they had to take a black cab, and the players like, you know, I'm not dealing with this, so we're out of here, and you know, ironically, I've always pointed that situation as being one of the reasons why New Orleans integrated easier than, say, a Birmingham or a Selma or, you know, a lot of the deep South cities in the 60s, is because they decided they wanted a football team more than they wanted to deal with segregation. And as long as they were a segregated city, they weren't going to get a football team. So, there are situations where this has made things better because they had to deal with this. But at the same time, if you talk to Abner Hayes or Wendell, I want to say Wendell Davis, but that's not right. But the players who left, refused to play in that game in 1965, they all got traded or were out of the league. Cookie Gilchrist, these great players in the AFL were all driven out the league within the next year or so because they took a political stance. And I think the NFL is doing that again with when you start looking at some of these players as their contracts come up or as they say they're just not good anymore. They're kind of phasing those players out. So, yeah, you can say collusion, but it is they're trying to send a message. You're not going to do this ever again. So, is that fair? I don't agree with it, but that's what it looks like the league is doing.
As I've heard several people say, I don't like politics with my football. I tune in. I want to see long runs, long passes. I want to see bone-jarring hits. I want to see JoLonn Dunbar decleat somebody on a special teams punt return.
You won't see that anymore, bro.
No.
Yep, that's all gone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ain't there no more, as we like to say in New Orleans.
But, that's what I'm watching for. I don't want to see the latest update on what this congressman or this president or this first lady or this former president. I don't care about all of that. That has not got anything to do with the game that I have tuned in to watch. It has absolutely no place in the game that I am trying to watch. And there were a lot of people a year ago that were, right, wrong, or indifferent. There were people that protested, sure. And then there were people that protested the protesters. And I understood the first protest. I didn't approve of it, but I understood it. The second protest of the protest came along. I understood that. But, long story short, I've been in and around the game of football at various levels for 40 plus years now. I have invested too much of my time, energy, effort, and life in this game to allow some moron to take that away from me and me to just back up and say, I'm done. They've ruined it for me. I'm going to boycott the. No, they're not going to take that away from me.
Let's move on to football because I don't like politics with my podcast, and I'm gonna get fired up because ultimately we just want these guys. Look, we're really happy when they're active in the community and they're doing the things that we want them to do, and nobody's saying anything else. Then we just want sports. We just want to watch our football players. Then they're all talking about how great this is and how they have a moral responsibility and how they're role models. So I have a Saints question though.
Okay.
I got yelling at the radio yesterday. I don't know what I was listening to, and they were talking about Christian McCaffrey. They were talking about CJ Anderson, and they said that Christian McCaffrey, they didn't think he was really an Alvin Kamara, but he, he's close. But they said that Mark Ingram was just head and shoulders above CJ Anderson. I don't think Mark Ingram's that good to say that. Now, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but to say, CJ Anderson had 1,000 yards rushing last year. He's no schlub. Do you believe that? Is Mark Ingram as good as this whatever person was advertising?
Not for the first 4 weeks of the season.
Guys, I'll take this first if you don't mind. As long as Mark Ingram is in a Saints uniform, then yeah, he is that much better. Tony, I think you and I have talked about this before. I am a big C.J. Anderson fan. I loved watching him run in Denver. You guys got a good back. I do believe CJ has been nicked up over the last couple of years, and he looks like he's sliding downhill quick. I'm interested to see what he's going to give you guys this year, and if McCaffrey can be more of a traditional back, take those first and second down carries at times from him. But I've always thought that Ingram is an underrated player.
Okay.
Is he a superstar? No. I'd truthfully put Mark as one of the top 10 backs in the NFL right now. And here's the reason I say that. He's a slashing cutback runner. He has nice bursts to get to the second level of the defense. And this is what I admire about Mark. He came out of Alabama in a very limited Bama system. As we all know, we've all seen the Crimson Tide play. He didn't have a lot of responsibility to pass block. He had even less responsibility to catch balls out of the backfield. He worked hard to improve his game at both of those. And there's not many teams where you look around the league and you can say, that guy, their number one back is an every down back. And I think Mark is. Is he the kind of guy that would set all-time NFL rushing records either in a single season or over career if he given the opportunity? No, he's certainly not a Hall of Fame back either. But I just think he's a solid, underrated every down back, and I'd take him on my team every day of the week.
Let me jump in here real quick because I totally agree with that. I remember when Mark Ingram came out as a rookie and a couple of years down the road, and people were mentioning the word bust with him. And he worked on his game. He improved markedly every year. And look where he is right now. Again, he's a guy that he he's a student of the game. He wants to get better. He works on his craft. And that's what he's done. And you put him with Alvin Kamara, and that's a defensive nightmare right there when you have to deal with one running back and then you have to deal with a change of pace back. So, yeah, again, I'm right there with you. What he's done is incredible, and I can't think of any of the other 31 teams that wouldn't take him on their team in some capacity.
Would you say that Sean Payton underrates him the most out of everybody?
No, absolutely not. I think that while the year prior to Kamara getting to New Orleans, you saw a 1,000-yard season out of him when really and truly no one expected that. But I don't think you saw the full capability of Mark Ingram until you had the change of pace back in Kamara there to allow him to have a breather, to allow him to be fresh every time they used him. I don't think that you're going to see that with, say, for instance, they trade Ingram to someone else, and he becomes the feature back, the only back in the on the team. You see him without a Kamara. You're not going to see the same type of output that you see out of him now. And by the same token, incidentally, I don't think that you're going to see out of Kamara in weeks 1 through 4, like a lot of people are just taking for granted that they're going to. I don't think you're going to see the results out of an Alvin Kamara without Mark Ingram being there that you saw a year ago.
So who's in that running back committee?
I don't know, but they need to be impeached.
It's because
right now, as of right now, it's going to be Alvin Kamara. They have Alan. You may have to correct me on this. It was my knowledge this afternoon that we upgraded Jonathan Williams' squad to active duty.
Yes.
Okay. And also active roster is Mike Gillislee, formerly of the New England Patriots.
Yes.
But, he's only he come into town, a week ago yesterday? He's had like 3 or 4 practices to learn an entire playbook. To be completely honest with you, I would not be at all surprised if Gillislee was not even active for the game tomorrow.
Kyle, I want you to chime in a little bit on Ingram real quick, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on him as well. But Kyle, I want to hear from you.
Well, the problem with Mark early in his career was more of the availability and as well as how Sean Payton was scheming as well. It wasn't until, was it the 2015 season, he was having a pretty good season.
Yes.
He was injured. The next season he came in, he did have the 1,000-yard season. Last season, man, look, he only carried the ball 230 times. He almost had a 5.0 per carry average. And I think he came out, what 1,100 yards?
Yeah.
So he done very well. Now, C.J. Anderson, he only had 3 touchdowns. Mark Ingram had 12 touchdowns last season. So that comparison kind of is a wash there. And but all in all, Mark Ingram, unfortunately, guys, I don't know if the Saints are going to extend him for another season. I think this could be his last season in the black and gold. It would be unfortunate, but I think when you look at Mark Ingram as well as what's happened with the suspension at the beginning of the year, this could spell the end of him being a part of the team. But all in all, I think Mark Ingram is a very serviceable as well as an excellent running back. And you see how hard he was running this preseason. I like the mad Mark Ingram versus the comfortable Mark Ingram. And I think once he gets back,
there's a nickname for that. They call him the Angram. We talk about the Angram. We want to see the Angram.
Yeah, the
Angram. Well, you know,
everything's all great, and I'm starting. No, we want the Mark Ingrams that has something to prove.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
the Mark Ingram that starts after he's fumbled 3 times and been benched for a half.
Well, here's the thing. You know, I think it's funny that Tony, you heard that on a radio show, because if any player in recent Saints memory that has been, I guess, the Rodney Dangerfield of this team, that would be Mark Ingram, because Saints fans can't wait to replace him. I can't tell you how many times I read draft scenarios where they're like, we could trade Mark Ingram for a 2 and we could get this guy, or we can get this guy, or we can go bring in Leonard Fournette, or we could get Darius Geis, and just start running through the LSU players. And a lot of it is because he came from Alabama. But the other part is, and this is exactly what Kyle was talking about, early on in his career, he struggled a lot, and he was injured a lot. And fans kind of hold that over him. So it's interesting to hear another franchise audience say, well, you know, if we had a guy like Ingram, we could really do something. And I wanted to throw this out there, too. He is 735 yards away from being the Saints' all-time leading rusher. Right. And he's about 5 touchdowns away from being the Saints' all-time leading, now for a running back, touchdown leader. Now, the touchdown lead as a player is going to Marcus Colston. He's got 72. He's got the most, outside of a quarterback, he's got the most touchdowns scored. But as a running back, you know, Ingram's very close to being on top of nearly every list in Saints history, and fans can't wait to get rid of him. So, you know, I don't know. I think he will be here again next year. Is he better than C.J. Anderson? I think he is, only because C.J. Anderson, just like Ingram, was kind of viewed as a specialty back, kind of a afterthought back. So he's coming over now to Carolina, and fans are pretty much like, yeah, he'll probably vulture some goal line touches, but it's going to be the McCaffrey show. It's not really, you're not really going to see much of Anderson. So,
okay. Real quick, we're running close on our time here. Josh, I know that you're having to jump on out as all of us are momentarily. Do you have a pick for the Super Bowl, Josh?
The
Two
Super
teams.
Bowl.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns.
Hey, man, I would throw some money down. Just 1 year, I'll hit it. 1 year you get those odds.
Well, I'll say one thing about Mark Ingram. He went to Alabama. C.J. Anderson didn't, so Mark Ingram's better. So that's settled that. Super Bowl. I would say that the AFC is going to be pretty much between 3 teams, which is the Patriots, Steelers, and Jags. The NFC, though, you can pick a lot of teams there. Probably about 8. Not so comfortably, maybe 7 or 8, but 5, 6. I don't know that I could pick one right now. If I had to throw a name out there, I really like what the Vikings have done. I think they're really well balanced. They're going to get their running back, which is going to help them a lot. They have an upgraded quarterback, I feel, and their defense was really strong last year. That said, they did struggle, obviously, in the playoffs to the Saints, so they've got to kind of overcome that demon as well. So if I had to throw one out, and again, I'm not really confident in that with how good the NFC is. I think it can be a number of teams. I'd say something like the Vikings and the Patriots, maybe.
Oh, God. What a horrible Super Bowl.
Patriots are going to be sorry this year.
No, you're fine, Josh. That's a horrible Super Bowl to think about. Oh,
not great. Not great.
Josh, how can everybody follow you and follow your work, man?
Yeah, don't write that one down. I'm on Twitter. At Draft Blackboard on Twitter. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I always have a good time, and best of luck to everybody's teams this season. It's going to be a hell of a ride.
Absolutely.
We'll see you in Falcons Hate Week, brother.
There we go. Week 3.
If I survive.
Thanks, Josh.
I'll just quote Animal House for you. My advice to you is to drink heavily.
Yes.
I won't ever wish luck to the Falcons.
Well, hey, good luck with your 150-pound running back, though. I hope that works out for you guys.
Yeah, there we go.
Shots fired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
At least
Josh.
my quarterback doesn't have a noodle arm.
There we go.
It's not Matt Ryan. It's Matt Ramen Noodle.
Oh, that's awesome. I gotta write that one down. Matt Ramen.
Okay, Tony. How can everybody follow the founder of the Feast and the Mothership podcast and all that stuff, man?
All right, yeah. My name's Tony Dunn. You can check us out on Tuesday nights. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. The name of the podcast is the C3 Panthers Podcast. You can check out our work at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. And the Twitter handle is @cat_chronicles. And I would like to mention this. My ECU Pirates beat the UNC Tar Heels today. Y'all stink. Your girls are ugly, and you don't know how to have a good time. So ECU, we put up 70 on you last time. We put up 41 on you this time. Suck it. There's got to be a safe space somewhere on Franklin Street for you.
I don't know what that insult was, but it sounded heartfelt and
Tony, real quick, your Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, I forgot to ask him Super Bowl.
Well, I would assume that since everybody on the panel now has a fresh slate, that we would all pick our own teams.
There you
go. When it comes to the AFC, though, I have a sneaky feeling that Houston's going to come out and beat the Patriots this week, and I want them. I think, look, they got if they can stay healthy, which they can't ever do. That's my dark horse right there, and I do think the Vikings is a great pick. So here I'm going to pick a non-Panthers team because I'm saying the Panthers and the Texans. But I would say, gosh, what about the Rams? There was so much. Look, they almost got Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
I mean, we might as well give them Luke Kuechly if you did that. And I want to know if you guys we got to know about this first round pick you guys traded up for that I've read that you guys haven't found a way. You don't know what you're really doing with them yet, or at least that's what this hot take headline was. But at the same time, imagine what you traded for that guy could have got you Khalil Mack.
Well, actually, hey, we're not supposed to divulge this because we're like in the loop. If you really want to know what Marcus Davenport is, he defeated Thanos and restored the universe. We haven't told anybody yet, but that's just what this young man is capable of.
Okay.
I don't think we can afford. I don't think we can afford Khalil Mack. That's $141 million. I mean, we're paying Drew Brees, we're paying Cam Jordan. That's a lot of money, and we got to pay Michael Thomas.
Pay Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And Marshawn Lattimore.
Don't worry, Alvin Kamara can handle load by himself, guys. That first 4 weeks, he can be just fine.
Well, I'm not so convinced because he's never had to do that since he was in high school.
Yeah, but I think we're going to see a lot of passing, honestly, tomorrow. I think we're going to have Drew Brees put the ball in the air 40 times, especially against that beat-up secondary. And I don't really fear the Bucs pass rush. So I think the Bucs are gonna try and play. Let's see if you can play catch up with us and make the Bucs play. Put the ball in Fitzpatrick's hand and try and play catch up that way. And I think it's going to be one of those. Game plan is annihilate the Bucs early and coast in the second half. So we'll see how this goes.
All right. Well, worst of luck to all of y'all.
Yeah, I hear you.
Thanks,
right.
Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Guys. Good night. Well,
somehow or another we lost Gene.
Yeah, I saw that. Gene dropped out. I don't know.
No, it cut him off.
Oh.
He said he couldn't get back on.
That's a shame.
Just for the record, I want to let everyone know that they can follow Gene and his Buck What You Heard podcast on YouTube, just like us. At oh God, I'm going from memory. I want to say at Super Heavyweight. Is that right, Al?
Yeah.
I don't do much Twitter, so that's what it is. And then there were just the victors left standing. No. I want to say a very special thanks to you guys, Bob. I mean, it's a weekly love fest. Weekly love fest.
A weekly?
Yeah, Kyle, it's late, man. There's cold medications involved and the whole 9 yards.
Kyle, I gotta tell you, I am jealous of that Michael Thomas color rush jersey back there.
I'm not jealous of the jersey. I want one of them Sean Payton headsets like he's using.
Oh yeah, there you go. You got that too.
Yeah, well, look, I tell you what, my wife skinned me for getting this headset, so it comes with a price.
There you go.
You sleep with one eye open, or well, I'm sorry, that's not Saints related. Anyway, Kyle and Bob, tell everyone how they can follow you guys and the wonderful stuff that you're doing at Saints News Network, Canal Street Chronicles, BAYOU BLITZ, the whole brand. You don't have to go through the catalog by the item. Just hit the highlights.
Well, Bob, go ahead.
We're everywhere.
There you go.
My articles can be found through the Canal Street Chronicles, available on both Facebook and Twitter under Saints CSC. Of course, I can be followed under Bob Rose on Facebook and at Bobby R2613 on Twitter.
This week.
This week, yeah. Facebook hasn't assassinated me in a long time.
Yeah, you just said it.
Yeah, I know it. Thanos
Shots
is
fired.
looking. Our show, the BAYOU BLITZ, is available every Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central Time. Kyle and I have a blast doing it. God bless Kyle. He puts up with me every week. The only person that deserves a bigger award is Lauren Davenport for putting up with me every day.
There you go.
Well, I do see you're sitting outside the back door, as you say.
Uh-huh.
and the lights are starting to go out behind me. I know. Hints. We have really had a blast doing this podcast. We've had some great guests up to it, including you guys last week, and I know we'll have you on again. We have a big guest next week in Quinn Early. Really excited to have him on.
That's gonna be awesome.
It is, and we just recently started a BAYOU BLITZ page on Facebook, which has grown in 3 weeks' time. It's grown to over 800 members. And a lot of those members are extremely active. They seem to be really excited about what we're doing too. We say it every week on our show, and I took this cue from you guys, that this is not Kyle and my show. This is everybody's show. This is a family. And I think a lot of our listeners have really taken that to heart, because we truly mean it. We're getting show suggestions, show comments and everything like that. And guys, it means a lot. I know it means a lot to Kyle. It means the world to me. This thing is growing big, and I'm just a passenger, and I'm enjoying every second.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, real quick, guys, before y'all take off, let me hear y'all Super Bowl picks. Who do y'all predict?
Kyle?
Yeah, mine is easy. It's going to be the Saints versus the Jaguars.
Okay.
Ooh.
There we go. Hey, that's not a bad one. How about you, Bob?
Saints Jaguars are really tempting because I really love the Jags roster. And last Monday, I put out my own league predictions through Canal Street Chronicles, and my sanity has been questioned ever since.
I got news for you, brother. That ship had sailed a long time before you released that article.
Yeah, but some of the people on Facebook and Twitter have only known me for a couple of years, so that was my final nail in the coffin. AFC, real quick. I love the Denver Broncos roster. I think that they're going to come out of the AFC West, but you got to look at the Patriots and the Steelers as always the prime contenders. That Steelers defense really worries me, and I think that the Patriots are due for a little bit of a dip. For them, they'll still be in the mix. I actually had the Houston Texans beating the Jaguars in the championship game. I know, Kyle, I love you, but this is just called a feeling.
Bill O'Brien. That's all I will say.
Yeah.
The poor play call. And it's
NFC. NFC, it's a meat grind. It is. And, obviously I picked this with some bias. But with some reason behind my picks, I looked at what I thought were the deepest two rosters from top to bottom in the NFC, and I keep coming up. Every single position, right at or near the top, I would check Saints, Vikings, Saints, Vikings, Saints, Vikings, nearly every position. I had New Orleans over Minnesota, getting a little bit of revenge in the NFC Championship game, setting up for a New Orleans victory over the Texans in the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to throw out mine real quick while y'all still here so y'all can laugh at me. But last year at this time, I don't think any of us would have had the Philadelphia Eagles coming out of this conference and not only going to the Super Bowl, but winning the Super Bowl. New England is, a given. The Patriots have a much easier route to the Super Bowl. Every year, they play in the softest division of football. My problem with the Jaguars is it's Bortles. I just do not trust Bortles in the playoffs. I think they got a great defense. I think they got a great running game. I think they actually have the receivers to do it. I just don't trust Bortles to make the plays he needs to make at a championship level. The Texans, I totally agree with you, Kyle. I think Bill O'Brien's a terrible play caller. And they always get hurt. It's like just you start to believe in the Texans, they get hurt.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
And the Steelers are a mess. They really are. This Le'Veon Bell stuff that's going on. I have never seen players take to social media to attack a player for getting more money, for asking more money from a notoriously cheap organization. I love the Steelers, but they're a cheap organization. They don't pay their players.
Never have.
No. And I'm going to have to go with a dark horse this year, a really, really dark horse this year to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers. And I know
get off of your show.
I know it's ridiculous, but I just think that, that things are just going to break right for them. It would only be fitting. They're playing in a soccer stadium. To host a playoff game in that stadium would be incredibly entertaining because, it's a soccer stadium that seats 30,000 people and they still got empty seats. It's amazing to watch. So it would be so fitting that the Jaguars would go, and of course in the NFC, I'm going with the Saints because I really think they are built to win a championship. I agree totally with you, Bob. If you look at the two strongest rosters, I have to say it's the Saints and the Vikings. I know about the Rams. They put together that dream team. But dream teams always turn out to be nightmares as the season goes on. And I just feel like either Jared Goff's going to take a step back or something's going to happen. They're not going to live up to expectations, and that team is going to implode. I'm going to pick – it would be so fitting Drew Brees' penultimate game, because I'm not going to say he's not coming back next year, but it would be incredible if his final game would be to play against the team he left. So I'm going to go with the romantic Saints Chargers in the Super Bowl with Brees getting that final Lombardi trophy and then flipping everybody off, and I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. How about you, Sean?
I do love the storyline, though. I do. Yeah. But as long as the San Diego Chargers have Phillip Rivers at quarterback, the most underrated quarterback to ever play the position, it's not going to happen. But I had to get my Phillip Rivers hate out.
Yeah.
Well, let me see. In the NFC, I don't see as a friend of mine named Sean Fox, who is on the Sports Talk radio show here, as he often alludes to, what you got is basically all the talent is on one side of the bracket for the most part. You divide teams into the elite, which are going to challenge for the Super Bowl. Then you have the teams that are going to probably make the playoffs, and then you have the teams that got to have a lot of luck and whatever to get to that next level. If you look at it in those terms, in the AFC, you're looking at maybe 3, possibly 4, if we allow for Allen's Los Angeles Chargers to be included on that level. You got them, the Jags, the Steelers, which, as someone mentioned a few minutes ago, they are a mess. Now, as we all know, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And the teams that are going to be Super Bowl contenders Monday morning are not going to necessarily be the Super Bowl contenders that actually contend for the Super Bowl. But if you look on the other side of the bracket at the NFC, you've got the Rams, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Saints, the Falcons,
Carolina,
Panthers.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't. Me personally, for the Packers to be in that category, they're going to have more than Brett Favre,
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. You mean Aaron Rodgers?
Is Favre gone now?
Yeah, Favre's gone now. Yeah.
You're going to have more than Rodgers, Matthews, and Jimmy Graham to compete for a Super Bowl. And as far as that goes, you've got the greatest of all time quarterbacks. He's done everything but walk on water. He hasn't finished a season in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think I've said all of that to. I'm going to pick the Saints, obviously, not because I'm a homer, but because every effort has been made. And as I said a week ago, the Teddy Bridgewater thing, it may eventually work out to be a move towards the future. But at this point, it's a move about having a backup quarterback to make a run at the Super Bowl. Every effort has been made, personnel-wise, from one end of the spectrum to the other, for this team to make that push this year, and if possible next year. But it's not going to be try this year and definitely make that push next year. There's no such thing. As we all know, there is no next year in the National Football League. It just doesn't happen that way. Now, as far as the AFC, I had two bold picks for the AFC, and one of them is the fact that the New England Patriots will not represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. The other was that the Cleveland Browns will be in the playoffs. Of course, that's another story for another time, I guess. But as far as the Super Bowl, all things being equal, I'm not that enamored with even the Chargers pick. I don't believe that much in Phillip Rivers. Jacksonville, even a stop clock is right twice a day. I believe that if they manage to get a few lucky breaks along the way, yeah, they could very easily do that. So it's going to be my pick is going to be Jacksonville and Saints.
Amen, brother.
There you go.
Great minds think alike.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. And I know, Bob, you got a little one in there who keeps talking to you out there, so you got to go. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Kyle, for being on the show, as always.
Alan,
yes.
I apologize. Can I just say this?
Absolutely.
Don't forget, guys, you can be able to check us out on saintsnewsnetwork.com. Barry Hurstis writes for us there, as well as you can check us out at Saints News on Twitter and Facebook, as well as on Instagram. But also, guys, Bob, myself, and Brendan Boylan, we're going to have a halftime report, the second line halftime report on tomorrow. So be there. You can come in, and you guys are more than welcome to join us for the halftime report. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm gonna be at the game, so I'll try and catch it after I get home. I do my good, bad, and ugly, so that'll be all over the place. I'll even throw it in the BAYOU Blitz for Bob, and just my instant feedback as I come back from the game, what I saw during the game, and what I thought they did right, what I thought they did wrong, and stuff I wish they had never even tried to do. So it's all. I always try to make it fun. It may take me a little while to put it together this because I'm coming back from the game, but it'll be up, and just let me know what y'all think of it. And thank you guys for being on the show again.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Kyle, you were worth the wait, brother. Thanks always.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, baby. Y'all take care. Who that, baby? Who that?
Who that?
Saints football.
All righty. Okay. So, Sean, it's 9:40. We've been on for over 2 hours. We're approaching hour number 3. I'm thankful people stuck with us for all this time.
You know, I really think that that was absolutely an amazing interview with JoLonn. I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
And like I said, every Tyrone Hughes, Joe Horn, all those guys, they were fantastic when they were on this. We've never gotten the feedback on it as it happened the way that we did tonight. And we want to thanks JoLonn Dunbar for being our guest.
Absolutely.
We want to thank all of our guests on the NFC South roundtable. And hope everybody has a fantastic time tomorrow enjoying Saints football.
Season starts tomorrow, and one game at a time. Don't overreact and don't underreact. I mean, it's going to be a little ugly this first game because I think that's just the nature, because they don't do the two-a-days and all that stuff we're used to. It's going to take them a little while to get going, but I think we're going to win. I think we're going to have we should go 3-1 these first 4 games. I don't know who that loss is going to be, but I think we have a good chance of coming out this first quarter of the season at or near the top of our division. So, who dat, and let's get ready to win tomorrow. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We'll see you next time, Tuesday night, under the dome. Good night, everybody.